what is going on YouTube? Welcome to Transatlantic Wrestling Talk. I am your host, Andy, and always I'm joined by my co-host, Dale. How are you doing, my brother?
Hello, Mr. Andy Dolly. Appreciate that nice little introduction here. We're still trying to unscrew the mechanical screws, I guess you could say, that this whole Melon app thing is, but I like it. It's nice. I actually give it a strong recommendation, just in case anybody was asking what we use. Highly recommend Melon app. But what I also highly recommend is listening to Andy and his picks for the pay-per-views that we watch. This week, we go into SummerSlam 1991. 20,000 people packed the Madison Square Garden, a very overrated atmosphere at the time. We had a great amount of things going on with this pay per view, didn't we, Andy?
We really did, and I was made up with this one. I really was. You know, it's a belter. It's a classic. Everybody should go and watch this pay-per-view.
It stands the test of time today because we have these legends that are involved in these storylines here, heated. We also have heated altercations in the back that we'll get to that lead to a lot of drama within the World Wrestling Federation at the time. And we also have nuptials. No, you or I did not get married, but somebody does get married later on. That is not the first wedding that happened at Madison Square Garden. Do you know who was married first at Madison Square Garden?
Oh,
Sly from Sly and the Family Stone got married there back in the 70s, I believe.
was it? Yeah.
Yeah. So he got married back then. It might have been early 80s or 70s, I believe. So he got married then. That's when you could, just throw. That's when you had fuck you money. I'm gonna get married at the Garden. So 1991, August 26th. We started off here. The tagline here is a match made in heaven and a match made in hell, as described in the headliner or the thumbnail that we supplied for you gracious people out there. So take it away, Andy. What are we doing? What are we starting off with?
So, just first of all, before we start going into the matches, I want to ask you something on this. Right? Do you feel like this was the first sports entertainment pay-per-view? Because there were so many gimmick matches on this and so many bits and bobs that it was just so much fun, wasn't it?
In an aspect of booking,
Yeah.
and in an aspect, yeah, that's a great point. I didn't even think about that. Because you have gimmick matches that were inside that stood the test of time. I mean, you had in a mass airing as far as a pay per view goes. My words are not coming out correctly today, but I will say this: you're absolutely right on that because you do feature a few different things going on here, and we'll talk. We'll talk very, very in depth about this. So, yeah, I'd agree with that because you also had WrestleManias with these feature attractions like Cyndi Lauper, Muhammad Ali, Fingers. I call him Fingers because in Batman, that's what.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Liberace played. It was terrible, terrible. But anyway, yeah, we started off here. I would definitely say that it is a gimmick. It was a very sports entertainment feel because they had the grasp and the gravitas to do that with the Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth later on in the night. That's how you close out a show, right?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? And I believe this was the first kind of thing that he done that wasn't a wrestling attraction for the first pay-per-view, if that makes sense.
Sure. This was actually a feature. This was the main event. This is what they ended the show with, which I probably would have left and beat traffic at that point because I know what happens at a wedding. No offense, but I guess seeing Macho Man go, "Oh yeah," when he actually accepts his nuptials is probably a memorable piece in history.
I think the most memorable for me was the after bit, but we'll get to that match at the when we get to there. But this pay-per-view in general is just awesome. Even from the start, we've got the Dragon, Ricky Steamboat, British Bulldog, Texas Tornado, taking on Warlord and Power and Glory, Paul Roman and Hercules. Great opening match. And the one thing that I always say every time I see, and that includes the Bulldog and Warlord, I always say, when they say big men can't work against each other, go tell them to that.
We saw it a year prior, earlier
Mm-hmm.
on in the year when we did WrestleMania, the WrestleMania that was in the beginning of this. What was it, 91?
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning of this year,
Yeah.
where Bulldog took Warlord up for the Power Slam. It was a very fun match for two big guys that did know how to work. Warlord still looks like he could kick the crap out of anybody in the world right
Yeah.
now, even to this day. Steamboat was flawless. This was like his later run in WWF, and he was flawless in every motion. The huge ovation, the huge pop that the Dragon got, rightfully so.
Yeah. Yeah. It was awesome. I mean, I think he was slowing down a bit here, wasn't he? But he was just so technically gifted.
Do you remember when Chris Jericho called out the legends when
Yeah.
the wrestler came out and Steamboat got in the ring? And I think I never heard a crowd go, "Holy crap, this guy is still amazing." I could still say that. There was actually thoughts of him facing Flair for Flair's last match. I would have preferred that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. I would look that all day.
Yeah.
All day.
Yeah, and there's one other thing here. Kerry Von Erich came out, and he got a huge pop, too.
And do you know what I always say around this time with Von Erich is he's wrestling with 1 foot. It's just crazy. You would never even know.
Nope. So
Never even
over,
know.
too. So
Yeah.
over, too.
Yeah.
I think...
Do you think he would have become a champion?
Yes. He was an IC champion, correct?
He was. Do you think he would have ever made it to the top? Do you think they maybe would have pushed him instead of Hogan?
No.
Sorry, instead of not instead of Hogan. Sorry, instead of when they done the Lex Express and all the rest of it. Do you think that Von Erich could have been?
I think he could have subbed that in. That's a great idea. I think he could have subbed that in because same body style, same type of flowing hair. I think you have the same type of look, but you have Kerry Von Erich that his family's been in the business for how many years at that point too. They just know the business and they have the understanding of it. What an unfortunate family, the Von Erichs, isn't it?
Oh, just heartbreaking. Absolutely tragedy for all of them.
Who's the one that's living in Hawaii right now? David? No, what's...
I think he's the only one left, isn't he? There's only one of them left.
Yeah, and he's got the two kids that are... If you watch MLW, folks, these kids are fantastic. I know that's not really broadcast too much out by you, but you could find them. The Von Erichs are
Oh, they've just signed a broadcast deal in the UK LMLW.
Oh, good. Good. I mean, I don't know the ins and outs as far as what contracts go. I heard they're kind of crappy there, but who am I to judge what people get paid and how they accept these offerings?
Yeah.
But yeah, Kerry Von Erich was definitely somebody that I think you could put a title on and get more charisma out of the Lex Express. But what would that be? Would that be the... I agree. Wouldn't that be great? Oh, yeah, that's right, Jimmy. You were on there. So, lucky bastard.
They need to get them across somewhere, but I think it just depends where they're up to. What would he like, Jim? Would he flawless, or do you think that he still needs a bit of work?
Footage I've seen of them is they just have a great build. They have a great look. It's like the equivalent of having, like, not as athletic modern day Usos and Street Profits, but guys that look like they could kick the shit out of you, like anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, just they were athletic. They're athletic as hell too.
That's it. And the thing is, if they're doing well there and they're learning stuff, leaves them there. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It'd be good to see them come up.
Great match though. Love seeing Slick everywhere I go. We haven't seen Slick in a few months there, Andy.
No.
We go from a fun little opener to probably one of the greatest matches that you will ever see. And I'll even put that down.
Good. Hopefully we see them keep building, Jim.
Yeah. I would like to see them somewhere, you know, not get wasted.
Oh.
We go into one of the best matches I've ever seen in my life.
Unbelievable. Yeah, just to let everyone know that Bulldog, Dragon and Tornado win this match, which was always going to happen. Nice big pop at the beginning and stuff like that. Gets a few different people on the show. All good, isn't it?
Yeah, and Paul Roma, always smiling out there. Paul Roma was definitely a guy that looked like he could just mix in with everybody except the Horsemen.
I know, I don't know why it's Paul Romer. I don't know why he was never more of a big deal, Paul Romer, because he did have, he had a good look, didn't he, and stuff like that, which would have suited for Vince, but for whatever reason, he just never seemed to progress, did
I
he?
I don't think he took shit
No.
because I heard a shoot interview that he did about Shawn Michaels, and Paul's kid was crying because he saw a match where the Rockers beat Power and Glory, and he goes, "Hey, my kid's crying. Can you just tell him we'll let him win?" And Shawn goes, "I'm not going to tell him that." Meanwhile, the kid's in the back, and he goes, and Paul's like, just appease him. The kid's 6 years old, and Shawn's like, "I'm not going to lie to the kid." And he goes, "Shawn, tell my son that you will let me win, or I will win tomorrow." And Shawn goes, "All right, yeah, you'll win tomorrow." Just, I don't think he mixed in with the good people. Not that there's anything wrong with that. The guy didn't take shit,
No.
And Hercules Hernandez was a brute.
He really was. I loved him as well. Thought he was great. But we move on to our next match. We've got Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect in an absolute classic. Just for me, one, it was Bret's coming out party, but when you put two guys like this together, you just, you know what's going to happen, don't you?
What I loved is the opening, how Perfect knew, like, screw this kid, and he starts beating the crap out of him. Like, oh, you're going to come for my title? All right, well, you know what? I'm going to beat the crap out of you. It's not like right off the bat where it's I'm going to out-wrestle you. It's smacks. It's hard-hitting. It's this little punk. He thinks he's going to win this title from me. This is the first time we've ever seen the coach in the corner of Mr. Perfect in anything that we've reviewed, too.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that. We haven't seen that together.
No, the coach, no. He wasn't around for long, though, was he?
No. And this is actually when Mr. Perfect had the Zayn pillow perm going on here. So he still had the squirrely, curly hair. But, yeah, anyway, Mr. Perfect just was flawless. The way he took bumps over the top rope is something that has never been mimicked. And I'm not sure why. Maybe if it was on AEW, one of the announcers would say, "Oh, he took that bump in homage to Mr. Perfect."
Yeah. I don't know why. I think it was just because Perfect was just so good. And the one thing I always say with Perfect is, offense-wise, he was believable. And, I don't think he was stand out as compared to a lot of people. Bret Hart, for instance, him and Bret Hart were pretty much, Bret Hart, I'd say, was better offensively because he was very sharp and whatnot. But one thing I would say is, I believe that he, selling-wise, he was just awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he threw his body around this whole match, especially for a win. He made it known that he was going to put Perfect over even while beating Perfect, and that's exactly what he did here. The leg drop going into a reversal into the sharpshooter for a quicker tap out is my one little minute problem, and the reason why is because Perfect tapped out really quick.
Yeah.
After that was slapped on. But it's a heel move, like, oh, I know I'm trapped. Let me just quit now.
Yeah. And anyway, the way he pulled his singlet off afterwards and stuff, it was good stuff, wasn't it?
Where would you rank this in the SummerSlam lore?
I think for me it's in the top 5.
Yeah, without a doubt.
100%. I've done it actually. I had done an article on WrestleBuddy, I believe it was last year. I think it was for SummerSlam, and it was definitely in my top. I think it was my number 1. I think it was, or my number 2.
Yeah, rightfully so. And the good thing about it is that the match itself was 10 minutes. No, it was 18 minutes. I'm sorry.
18 minutes. Longest match on the card, which it should have been. But what else it tells you is the fact that them two guys got more time than Hogan and Warrior versus Slaughter and Adnan, Joe and Mustafa. Which tells you a lot. But what I'm saying is the fact of it shows you how much Vince at the time trusted these guys to go out there and put on a clinic. And it was very rare, wasn't it, back then, that your main event wouldn't get the most time on the card and stuff. So
that wedding was a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a very long time. But yeah,
uh,
Bret Hart wins his first major title, and do you know what? It's sad. I was sad watching this. One thing that I will say, where I was kind of sad, is how much that Intercontinental Championship meant back then.
it'll come back to an allure such as that at some point. You have one of the best people right now holding that title,
Mm.
and
You
he
do,
will. Yep. Even though his name is not this anymore, Gunther
yeah,
will actually create such a prestige to that again. Not
yeah.
like what we just witnessed or what we were just talking about,
Mm-hmm.
but I truly believe that this was like the top part of it. And then Razor Ramon and
Yeah, and
Shawn
Shawn Michaels and
Michaels,
stuff.
like
Yeah,
you know,
even that. To be honest, though, I'll admit, even like I think if you say the Intercontinental Championship, the likes of your Shawn Michaels and your Bret Hart and stuff, that was their first chance on the way up, and that's why it meant so much. Where now you can be an Intercontinental Champion for years, and nobody will ever give you a push to the top or not, and it's not that stepping stone anymore, is it?
no. And when we talked about what did we talk about? 15 years ago from today, so about 2007, even into 2012. We were talking, or 2010, we were talking about how ECW champions were a litmus test to become the world champions.
Yeah.
And it's rightfully so for intercontinental title
Mm-hmm.
holders at this point in time. And I truly believe that. Unfortunately, Razor never got it, never got his chance to shine. I'm not sure how it would have been if he actually stayed there, but I
Mm.
think he did okay afterwards.
Yeah.
I would totally suggest that this, if you're going to take 20 minutes out to watch a match, this is it right here.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll move on anyway. And you mentioned Gunford there with name changes. I've always said, mate, I'm not against any name changes. And in this match, we've got the natural disasters, Earthquake and Typhoon, who was formerly known as Tugboat. The name change worked well for him here. Segue. Um,
Excellent.
yeah, but this was a good match as well. I like the fact of this match as well because I like the fact that the Bushwhackers get beat here because let's face it, believability is always the key, and nobody could believe that the Bushwhackers were ever going to beat Thingy. But the Bushwhackers got all their funny stuff in, and at the end we get Andre. Very sad because obviously he wouldn't be here much longer. And he comes out and hits the natural disasters, and it's just a fun little match for me. It was fun for Andre to be out. It was fun with the Bushwhackers because it's always fun. Andre playing the goat with them. The natural disasters got the win as they should have, but then also we got that bit of fun at the end and a bit of revenge from the Bushwhackers with Andre.
Yeah. And the first thing I thought of was they had a backstage segment where it was the Bushwhackers and Andre, and I always think of that meme with the three of them that says when the local news interviews people.
Mm.
And that's exactly what that looked like too. It was amazing because you could just tell, not that they're milking Andre. I don't want to say that they were milking appearances by Andre, but I think Andre was definitely somebody that liked to be out there, and the crowd loved him. And you and I have never reviewed an Andre match yet.
No.
And I was actually thinking, and one of the key points that I wanted to talk to you about was, could Andre make anybody look good? Could he make any other wrestler?
It makes Hogan look good.
Okay, I would sit here, and if he liked you, he would make you look spectacular.
Mm. Yeah, he made Hogan look really good. I thought he'd done his job really well, especially at WrestleMania 3.
Yeah, of
I
course.
don't think he ever made the Warrior look good. But then, as Heenan said in them interviews, there was a reason behind why that didn't happen, which I'm fine with. I've got no problem. But as I say, sadly, he didn't go much longer after that. But we'll move on to the next match anyway. We've got Virgil versus Ted DiBiase. Now, modern day, this wouldn't work and it wouldn't fly, would it? Let's face it. But back then, this was great storytelling.
Yeah, yeah, I loved it because it was just like, all right, you knew that the $1 million champion had his $1 million servant who happened to be of another color. So, especially over the past month, this never should look good. But he was getting paid, and we would see him getting paid. So I guess it was paid services. Not really going to talk about anything else besides that. But finally, Virgil had enough.
Yeah.
Virgil said, "You know what? I'm not going to kiss your feet. I'm going to grab your belt. I'm going to hit you in the face with it."
Yeah.
They did exactly this.
Yeah.
He beat Ted DiBiase beat the ever loving crap out of Virgil in this match, and it's really weird, because I said Ted took Virgil to the limit. If you put these two side by side, you would think that Virgil would have his way with Ted. It would have been like an ultra tan Wardlow got out of the Olive Garden to beat MJF.
Yeah.
This is what this feud is in modern
Yeah.
day.
And I'll tell you one thing in this one as well. The cherry on the top of all this was Roddy Piper. Roddy Piper. Everyone always accused Roddy of not putting people over on commentary and putting himself over more. In
Who
this
says
match,
that? Who says that?
Yeah, there was a lot. There was a lot on it, mate. A lot on it saying that Roddy Piper in the early days used to put himself over more on commentary than what he would the talent. And if you go back and watch some stuff, you can kind of see it on certain points back in the early 90s and stuff. But here, specifically, he made this match for me. He was part of the whole, like, getting you into it. Come on, Virgil, you're my friend, Virgil. All brilliant. Really, really good.
And this will pick up because there's an event where Virgil starts yelling at Piper to get up. It was on a WrestleMania.
Yeah.
And Virgil grabs the mic. He says, "Piper, get up," because Piper, I think, had a bad hip or something. It might have been the Survivor Series after this.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, it was the Survivor Series after this. What you just said about the Piper not putting anybody else over. Okay, well, let me ask you something, all right? Who was one of the announcers prior to this, as far as talent goes? As far as a wrestler goes?
There wasn't one. Oh, Ventura.
Comparing apples to oranges here, sir. Because Ventura was spot on if you hear him.
No, he was.
All right, so SummerSlam's a year or two prior to this, when you had Macho Man and Elizabeth and Hogan, and they're facing off against Andre and Ted, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and you hear Ventura putting over every other bad guy on there. So, would you rather have somebody impartial? I could see what they're saying about the whole Roddy Piper not always being out for himself, but that wasn't his intention.
No, and that's the thing, isn't it? That was always the thing with it, is that, like, I don't think he meant that, but I think he hadn't figured it out early on. I think that's more what people were saying, was he hadn't figured out how to put other people over on commentary. Because let's face it, the difference between doing your own promo and whatnot and doing wrestling and then doing commentary, colour commentary, is different. And maybe it was just that kind of transitional period where he needed to realise he needed to put the people in the ring over, not himself.
Yeah, it's definitely something. But Perfect would do it 4 years from now.
And he'd do it well, very well.
There were bumps in the road.
Yeah.
So that's why, I give these guys a pass with that, though.
Do you know what I always find sad is, like, the likes of Corey Graves now. He's really good.
He's grown on me.
Modern day. He's getting better all the time. Macho back in the day. And I'm not trying to say Corey Graves with Macho, but I'm just using their thingy. We have Perfect, another one. And it's
Stu
like all
Bennett.
these guys were Stu Bennett, really, really good commentators. But for whatever reason, they always wanted to get back to the ring. And it was like, if Perfect had stayed on the commentary, would he potentially still be here now?
I don't know.
Jerry Lawler was another one who didn't want to do the commentary, didn't want to give up the spotlight. And it's kind of like, when your time's done, your time should be done. And,
he would have a heart attack at the table, too. That's announcing. So I'm sure at that point he said, you know what, maybe this is a wake-up call.
He still wrestles, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, he wrestled 2 months ago. Somebody I saw. I forgot who it was.
Yeah. Well, Virgil gets the win here. Sorry,
I forgot something about the last match. You said not that we had to really go into natural disasters, but you were talking about the announcers, and Gorilla Monsoon said about Jimmy Hart that he is the greatest walking advertisement for birth control.
He did, yeah.
I said gorilla throwing jabs.
I know, I know. Gorilla was brilliant, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's when I will say this as a fan, when you turn on one of these old pay-per-views
Mm,
and you hear him announcing,
yeah,
I get an instant smile.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And also, when you think of him and Bobby together, it makes me smile even more.
Heenan wouldn't jump on commentary during this in the appropriate times, though. And he would
Yeah,
take jabs at Piper. I think it kind of eased Piper into the role, too.
yeah. Oh, 100%, because, he was the best, wasn't
Yep.
he? But
But don't we go from good to greatness.
absolute greatness. And you know what? The Mountie just never gets enough credit for what he should
No.
do.
No.
So he was brilliant. Jack Rougeau was quality. Even now, when you see him on interviews or whatever else, it's just like he's just full of charisma. Give the guy his due.
He's so funny.
Yeah,
Like, he's just so funny. And
yeah,
like you said, he just oozes charisma. And I don't even think he tries. He was athletic as hell. He's doing leapfrogs that he's getting really high up in the air for. He takes on, in the Jailhouse Rock match, Big Boss Man.
yeah.
Do you like him as Bubba Rogers?
No, I
Big
like Big
Bubba?
Boss Man. I love the Big Boss Man. I thought he was awesome, and I loved his theme music here as well. It was brilliant.
It's hard times.
Obviously, do you know what would I said to myself? What would have made this perfect if the Mountie had had his the theme music that he had later on in his career?
Oh, that Mountie music was just fantastic. What's the stipulation here, Andy?
So the loser goes to jail, and the good thing about this one is it's not like the stretcher matches or anything that we normally see where they just go into the back of an ambulance, doors shut, drive off, camera off.
Yeah.
We actually see the way this goes throughout the rest of the night. Um,
This is the sports entertainment part that you're
yeah,
saying too,
yeah,
where cameras kept following him all
yeah,
throughout jail
yeah,
for the rest of the. I was going to say episode, but for the rest
yeah.
of the pay per view.
I mean,
And
the actual match wasn't up so much, was it? It was just a match. Big Boss Man gets the Boss Man Slam, gets the win.
actually, no,
Uh,
he beat him with an Alabama slam.
Yeah, no, but oh no, sorry, it was an Alabama Slam, wasn't it? Because the Boss Man Slams was the sidewalk slam, wasn't it? And it was the
Well,
Alabama he got him this time round with.
yeah. And
Yeah,
it was the first time I recall seeing an Alabama slam in a
same,
pay per view, and
same.
I'm like, oh, he hit him. Like,
Yeah,
that's not a good move to take. If you mess that up, think of your neck, your head.
I know, but I think Boss Man Ray Taylor was very, very good, wasn't
Yeah, yeah. He's a Cornette's golden boy too.
he? Yeah, for the reason though. And then I love the way the guys come out to help Boss Man. They have the paddy wagon come down, and
A
it's like,
minute, like a
I'm
second
the
after.
Mountie. He's
Yeah,
getting dragged off. And then straight away, we go off that match, but we go on to the promo for the next one.
a lot of promos.
One thing I love in this one as well is you have the Legion of Doom there talking, get ready to go and challenge for the tag team championships, but also the Nasty Boys, and then you get Jimmy Hart, who's in absolute bits over the Mountie, and it just flowed so well, didn't it? This one.
If you looked at Jimmy Hart during this whole thing, Jimmy Hart was probably the MVP as far as like little performances go.
Oh yeah, yeah,
His jacket was a mess with all the writing on there. You had natural disasters. You had the Nasty Boys. The Mountie was written on the bottom of that jacket. Like schizophrenics would probably love this thing because they were just like they would be attracted to anything on there. After the match, it was just murderer's row of promos. And it was so funny to watch because LOD would then talk crap about natural disasters because they kind of helped Andre out after the Bushwhacker natural disaster match. You were also getting treated in between those with footage of the Mountie being carried off and getting his fingerprints done. And then you would also, the best part about it was when he's getting booked, he goes, "Hey guys, we speak the same language," to the corrections officers. In America, this is not a regular thing, just in case anybody was wondering. If you were I to make a bet, Andy, and I said loser goes to jail, it's not going to happen.
No. Well, it was awesome. I really was made up with this. I thought, like, even where it's do you know the bit I love the best is with the where they're trying to take his picture,
Yeah.
and he's
And
like, no, 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 and she goes, I hear the big box man kicked your ass, and he goes, what? And he just clicks him away. And when they're trying to take his finger, you want the finger? Here's the finger.
Yeah, exactly. And you never saw the finger at that point, and that might have been the first one. So I think he was Stone Cold Steve Austin. The Mountie was Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, but the Mountie, literally, in this one, it's even the little bits of the... No, Jacques played an absolute belter here. Like, when he turns around, and as I say, with the picture, it's the, what? And the face movement, and he goes, no! Like...
That picture, we probably have to find it.
Yeah.
It's got to be somewhere in the
Oh,
lore.
it'll have to be somewhere around.
You know what I want to know? When they did that Wrestling's Greatest Treasures, why isn't that framed somewhere?
There must be something. Do you know what? You'll probably find in the later series, you'll probably get more of the old stuff coming out.
I don't... Yeah, but would they actually go out there and interview Jacques Rougeau? I don't think so.
Maybe.
I hope they do. They should remember. I don't know. They probably don't want to remember this match. Who knows what they want to remember.
I mean, saying that, this match you probably would do, because there was nothing wrong with either of these guys. Have had no controversy around them, and it'd be quite cool to do something on the Boss Man. I think he deserves it.
Like cuffs, I think, or a nightstick.
But and also there were the two law enforcement characters in there, wouldn't it? So it would be a good episode to have the two of them in it. The only thing I'd say is what they might not want to do is, because of the whole Macho Man Elizabeth thing, they don't really like to acknowledge Miss Elizabeth, do they?
Never.
Because the way she died and whatnot, which is fair enough, like, but...
Yeah, but they're going to acknowledge Lex Luger later on tonight on A&E. Are you watching, man?
No, I'm not. Never, ever will I watch that scumbag. But anyway, we'll go on to our next match, Legion of Doom versus the Nasty Boys. Really good match. I remember watching this as a kid, and I was like, proper, when the Legion of Doom took the titles, I was just boomf. But they never really got that far after this, did they, Dale?
No, and that's the sad part. And that was actually a question I wrote down for you. I'd like to grab a few before we go into this. And my whole thing was, did LOD ever have a classic in WWF?
No.
And
I think this was probably their best match.
Yeah, and our lasting image, unfortunately, with them was Droz and Hawk. That was like the last real image that we saw with them involved in anything. They constantly are on pay-per-views that you and I call. You know, with this.
Well, they should have been the
Stampede.
top of the shop. Boom. Dude. But, and nobody can say it was WWE buried them. They buried themselves. Well, Hawk buried them.
Look, John, when we would see the LOD episode of Dark Side of the Ring, Animal would actually say, look, I would leave Japan. Hawk would stay back to do jobs for the Yakuza. I mean, that just goes to show you how crazy these guys were. Any time somebody does a Doomsday device or gets a Doomsday device done to them, it's flawless. Like, it could really kill you. We watched it on Spring Stampede last week, where they did it with Owen, and Owen just did this graceful black... I mean, it's Owen. He knows what he's going to do. Yeah. But I think they did it to Sags.
Yeah, I think Hawk had a good... Animal, the way he used to... The one thing I noticed in this, and something I was going to bring up, is if you look on the... when Hawk normally used to do this move... Animal would get you by the calves and he would flip you.
Yeah.
In this one, he doesn't.
He
just dumps him.
You know what I think it is too? And it's nothing against the Nasty Boys, because I'll say this. The Nasties were what they were. They cut nasty promos. They looked nasty. They looked edgy. I loved their attire. As much as they were heels, I thought that stuff looked cool as hell.
Oh, it did. I used to love the helmets and all that as well. Yeah.
And they worked hard. If you look at them, and they worked convincing too. They could say, people could say whatever the hell they want about the Nasties. but they look like these guys could beat the shit out of you in a fight. You know, you take a look at the WCW days. They had these massive, like, what was it, Max Payne and Cactus Jack. They had that hardcore match, and they hit Cactus in the head with a shovel, and nobody could sit there and tell me that that was fake or gimmick, because that thing hit him dead on. These guys literally beat the crap out of each other. But I really think that they wanted to work snug with LOD.
Oh, they always did. They always did.
And LOD was just like, all right, you sure you want us to hit you? And yeah, I mean, they got what they asked for.
Yeah.
Did you like the LOD's promos?
No.
No?
No.
You thought it was just...
I liked them once when I first seen them, and then after that, it was just always rinse and repeat, and I didn't really like that.
Well?
Tell them all.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought... But that's like it's almost like what? You know, when you would hear that, and that was what really, as fun as it is, it really ruined the wrestling industry.
Yeah. It's on my head in as well. That it really did. I was always one for like a good long promo. But as we say, it got us where we needed to go on this one. LOD get the win, get the belt, and we were potentially off to the races, which we know now didn't really go there.
I got a question for you, and just to bring up Jimmy Hart again. Do you like the fact that you would have Jimmy Hart that managed all three of these teams and the people, and somehow the other people never got involved in the matches? No,
he had a stable, and he could learn a thing or two off him, because he could probably do well with telling my kids, because he could manage people, couldn't he, to keep a nice, like, everybody live in harmony, shall we say?
Yeah, and I just like, it's like if Bobby Heenan had Perfect, and then all of a sudden, you would have Iron Mark Sharp come out there to interfere with the match. It just didn't make sense.
No. But it is what it is, and we'll move on to our next match now. IRS defeated Greg Valentine, and on to
and our friend John Arezzi was in the fourth row. Finally saw him here. I said, "Oh, there he is," and he really is a bigger, larger than life character, especially with his shades too.
Yeah.
Nobody cared about this match.
No.
The announcers didn't even care about this match, and the best part about it was Piper singing Sinatra. So the discussion was, Piper says he sings like a bird, which is a vulture. And then a suspender discussion came about. Okay? And this really fucking got me. All right, Andy? You ready for this? So they're talking about how IRS has a tie, but they heard it was a clip-on tie, so it wouldn't do anything if you grabbed them by the tie. Then Monsoon says you could grab them by the suspenders, but they aren't clip-on. Yes, they are.
Yeah, this whole match was a disaster. And for anyone who's watching, IRS is Mike Rotunda, who is Bo Dallas and Bray Wyatt's dad. Just a little point for you, because that's about as good as it gets.
But you clip on suspenders, though. This really got to me, this whole match. I've never been
I'll be up on it. I didn't even watch it, probably, the match. I watched it, but I didn't really take it in because it was that crap.
But as somebody that dressed up every day of their life, you clip suspenders on your pants. They're clips.
Yeah.
What do you does Gorilla Monsoon tie his around his waist?
He's probably just the same as us. He probably just didn't care.
Next match.
We've got the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan.
Do you remember this, though? Because I kind of remember this. There was an ad for a pay-per-view about Hulk Hogan himself.
Yeah, the Real American one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch it?
No. I wouldn't mind finding it, though.
Hopefully it's not buried somewhere. It might be on the network. Because I would like to see what they do for 91. What the narrative would be. And it would just be all wins. There would be no mention whatsoever of what he did in the AWA. Do you remember when Razor died, and you and I were talking about how what was the best thing that Scott Hall did, if there's anything we should watch, and I found a Coliseum home video about Razor Ramon that was published in 93 or 94, and I watched it. It was excellent. It was just fun because it took you back to what Coliseum home video did. So it's probably around the same type of match.
Yeah.
Or the same type of style of pay-per-view. And then Undertaker had one. What was it? He buries them alive. It was like 8 of his matches.
Yeah.
One being against IRS.
This one here was just really, really good. Though the one thing that I did like with this one is it's a continuation from WrestleMania 7, isn't it?
The match?
Mm-hmm.
I think we're skipping a few things here, sir.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are.
What are we skipping now? Oh, the wedding.
No. We're skipping what got us to here.
Ah, right. Okay.
So, what people don't really know or understand, or what the WWE wants to let you know about, is how everybody was living in harmony at this point, okay? The title had to be taken back off of Ultimate Warrior just because it's just terrible, and they knew what they got themselves into. So they needed a tag team match. Might as well align Hulk Hogan with Ultimate Warrior because they're just fantastic forces. You'll see it in the thumbnail. They were a great team, but they weren't. What the lore is now is that the Federation was held hostage by Ultimate Warrior because he wanted $1 million to do this match and come out and do this match. So what did he do, Andy? He said, I'm not going out there until you give me that money. And one big thing that Vince McMahon is big on, besides paying for sex and hush money, is telling people, okay, I'm going to give you what is advertised. So he gives Ultimate Warrior the money. They go out there, and Hogan and Sergeant Slaughter and the Iron Sheik and General Adnan basically wanted to kill him. That's why you have a generally ginger type of wrestling style here going on with all the combatants in this. Who was the special guest referee, Andy?
It was Psycho Sid, and again, I really liked this. I like the way that they didn't rush Sid Hogan. Because I think like they knew they still had a little bit more to squeeze out of the whole what happened at WrestleMania 7 lock.
Yeah. To me, this is key factor as to why Ultimate Warrior is such a piece of trash. And why I was never really a fan of him. My allegiance was with Hogan. Hogan worked terribly during this match. This match was a little bit of a mess just with the kickouts and Ultimate Warrior just acting really frantically during this whole thing. There's a whole spot where he kicks out of Slaughter's some move from Slaughter, and then he just runs. He gets up and then gets back down and then runs around again, and Hogan then gets a tag, and it was just really awkward looking, and you could just tell that I think that Slaughter really wanted to kill him, and I think Sheik also wanted to kill him too in this match. I don't know. It was the best attire for Ultimate Warrior, I thought. Between
and the one thing I can say that's really, really good is the fact that after this match, that was what he had got.
Yeah, he got paid and then he got the axe.
Yeah,
and we wouldn't see him for a long time after this too.
And you know what? Good on Vince, because at the end of the day, mate, you know it's. You don't try and hold somebody up like that. You discuss it like an adult before and or something like that. You don't start trying to pull somebody over in a battle.
Everybody's a professional that's in this match, except for Ultimate Warrior himself. No. So they kept himself composed. And I really, 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 not going to be a hot take, but I really have a feeling that at one point they wanted to have Sid at this Warrior role. They could have done it.
He could have done it. Maybe it would have been a good thing. I mean, obviously, Sid Justice was his name back there, wasn't it, as well? But the one thing that he did say was kind of telling was, if you noticed at the end of the match when Sid and Hogan celebrate, Warrior is nowhere to be seen.
Nope. I'm pretty sure that, and Vince even said this, although it's probably doctored up. Vince said this in the original Destruction of Ultimate Warrior DVD. He says, I could not wait to fire him. He got to the
Yeah.
back. I could not wait to fire him. And I don't think that that's not true.
No, I don't blame him. But that was it. It was a match. It was what it was. And then we'll move on to our main event, which is just crazy, or co-main event as they called it. I think this was the first ever co-main event, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
can you call it that, though? Because it is the main feature. Because when you look at main event, especially in combat sports, salute! In salute! When you look at main events in combat sports, quote unquote, I would think it's a match. You wouldn't think of it as a wedding. Although sometimes the
No.
best hit pieces in a Jerry Springer show are probably the weddings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, Vince Russo wanted these to be like Jerry Springer shows at that point. Did you guys have talk shows like you guys had crazy talk shows, right?
Oh, yeah, we
Where
had some crazy ones, yeah.
yeah, I see footage of it. You guys had some awesome ones. I mean, we had Maury, we had Donahue, we had Sally Jesse Raphael, Morton Downey.
Dr. Phil.
The craziest people on there are the ones that, you know what? I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there because we're about wrestling. And if anybody wants to know what I really think about what the standing time is right now, go check out my video that I just did on WrestleBuddy. All right? But anyway, just to go into it, yeah, they had this, like you said, and pinpoint it perfectly. This is the first time you're going to have sports entertainment really involved in this, okay? You
Yeah.
would have guests, and then later on it would be guests. But between the jail proceedings, where, by the way, the Mountie was thrown up in a cell, and somebody tried to start with them, and Mountie was going to kick his ass. Then somebody else came up to him, and I could not believe that this happened. Some guy came up to him and asked if he liked how leather felt on him, and that's when the Mountie wanted to get out of the cell. I could not believe that that was aired. I said, oh my God, this was a real thing. The wedding took place, though. Macho Man was decked out. Macho Man was taking 1-900 calls the whole time, too. So
Yeah.
he was doing hotline calls. But we had stuff going on in the background, correct?
Yeah. We did. But, well, were they already not married at this point, or were they separated at this point?
I think they were married, right? I thought they were married at this point.
They were married, but I think they might have already separated.
I don't know. Who knows the inner workings of that relationship, too? It's
Yeah.
a very unfortunate thing when you think about it.
I
But
mean, the wedding itself was uneventful. There was a bit afterwards, which obviously is brilliant, because if you look at this as, oh my God, they had a wedding, you're going to go, ugh. But if you look at what it leads to and how it goes, then they've done it perfectly. Because, as we know after the fact, Jake the Snake Roberts hid a snake in the presence. Perfect, Jake. Then Undertaker hits Savage with an urn. Sid Justice runs them off. And then after that, Macho Man wanted to compete, but he couldn't because of the stipulation of what happened with him and Warrior at the previous WrestleMania with the retirement match. But again, good storytelling. And then he starts a campaign to get himself reinstated, which in turn he does in the end. But I like the way they just didn't go, all right, Randy Macho Man into a match here. He had to campaign for it, he had to work for it. It's good storytelling, mate.
yeah, it's stuff that you don't see nowadays because in this point you do have somebody saying, well, how do I get around this contract? It's not just, oh, let me bring the owner in here. Or I'm Triple H, so I'm friends with you, so you give me what I want. And that's stuff that happened. Although they did do that about 6 or 7 years ago with Seth Rollins. Remember, Seth was Triple H's boy, and Triple H said, well, you finally have a task, and we can't help you out with this. And I think they brought out Lesnar, if I recall. So that's kind of interesting there. Instead of the whole, hey, I'm the boss's daughter, and I could do whatever I want, so you have to listen to me, which really in corporations, that's not how it works. But in wrestling land, yay!
Then listen, lads, as long as I always say in wrestling, sometimes things can be really outlandish, and it's never, ever, ever once bothered me because it makes sense. Whether it's outlandish or not's another thing, but as long as it makes sense, that's all that bothers me.
We saw
I don't really
somebody.
care about anything else.
We saw somebody come out with a tractor the other day and lift up the ring.
Yeah.
But that's also playing to the crowd because it's Nashville. It's a more southern town. It's not
Yeah,
something
Brock
that they don't
Lesnar's known
see.
for being a farmer. He used the truck to, he's cowboy Brock at the moment or whatever else. You know, no problem with that at all. No problem
No,
at all with stuff like that. You know what I mean?
no.
Same with this, with the wedding. Elizabeth had been in Valley for years. They got married. These guys upset the wedding. Oh, well, I want to fight them, but you can't because you think, okay, let's go and petition to the owner, see if we can get them to change the thing. Good storytelling, mate. But I think that's going to be us for this pay-per-view. So, Dale, all in all, what did you find with this pay-per-view? What was your rating?
I'm probably going to go with the 7 on this, 7.5. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Like I said, as soon as you hear Monsoon's voice, you know you're in for a treat and vintage feel. Things I didn't like on it, I think that Perfect tapping out so quickly without even getting a hold on him really kind of not soured or whatever. But it's an understatement as far as how Jimmy Hart just really cared about the Mountie. And I never seen that much love in this pay-per-view, in a pay-per-view. Even with two people getting married, I think the Mountie was loved more by Jimmy Hart here. Hogan really was mailing it in at this point because he knew he had the Federation by the balls. He knew he had Vince by the balls, and everything that he did was just, I'm flawless. I could do whatever. I could do no wrong, and that's proven here again. So that's why he kind of mailed it in here. But he mailed it in less than Jon Moxley has in the past couple of years.
Yeah, well, I'm going to give it a 9. And I'm going to give this a 9 based on young 6-year-old Andy, because I remember watching this live as a little kid. And whenever he watched it back this week, I just sat there with a smile on my face. All the way through. The only thing that I'd say is the only reason it doesn't get a 10 is that IRS Valentine match.
Yeah, but crowd was hot for Valentine. And
Andy wasn't today.
You know what? I'm gonna bring this up to an 8, and I'm gonna give it another point off because Gorilla Monsoon does not know proper attire and what clip-ons are. God, that really got to me, man. Still, Andy, it's my turn.
Oh,
before we go, we're on a really good streak here. We really are. It would just be a shame for me to change that up, right? And so I'm gonna fuck it up, right? The answer is no, I'm not, because I'm going to pick something that I went to, and I think it's something that you'll probably enjoy. And it happened 20 years ago, SummerSlam 2002.
Oh, Street Fight.
Maybe
it is, isn't it? Oh no, it's the unsanctioned match, isn't it? 2002. Oh yes.
Being there live was one of the greatest moments ever. We'll get into it though.
We haven't done that one before, have we?
No. I think you did a best of last year, and somebody said it right off the bat.
Yes, that was correct, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Right, all right, guys. Well, thanks so much for watching. We appreciate you as always. Thank you for getting some really good views and some great support from all you guys. We really, really appreciate it. Well, from me and Dale, we will see you again next weekend. But for now, take care.
Peace out.
Peace out.